waiting for confirmation that we are indeed live. Seems like we are live. Fantastic. Hello, happy Friday everyone, and welcome to the next video in the 10-part vlog series. For those who haven't caught the previous 4, essentially this is 10 tips on getting success when implementing a new fitness and health regime, although realistically it's probably got broad application to any thing you want to try or implement when you want to make some sort of lifestyle or changes that'll get you geared towards achieving certain goals of yours in life. So these are sort of 10 common sort of stumbling blocks that most people starting any kind of new journey, I guess is probably a way of saying it, will encounter. And so the idea is to help you navigate through those and give you an idea around what to expect. So tip 5 is to start basic and then customize. So it sort of builds on some of the other principles that we've talked around already. So if you work with a good coach, and hopefully I'm included in that, or with AKA fitness and nutrition, then you can expect on a one-on-one basis that your plan will be completely individualized, customized, and matches, and the plan matches with your unique goals and needs. But I guess there are always, when you first start out, there's always going to be a level of certain things that you need to get in place to be ready for the individualization. So when we've talked about some of the habits and things like that before, one of the key things to do is to set up your environment, for example, is to really find an identity that's congruent with the type of person that would achieve your goals, and then make daily steps towards being that person in order to achieve those goals. So there's certain things like that that kind of have a broad application and would apply to many people. And the trick is to identify the right habits that you need to implement in order to set yourself up for success. So that's one of the premises of the Incredible You in 2022 group coaching and online course. It basically steps you through some of those really key habits that if you implement early on, basically set you up for success in terms of then embarking on on your fitness and health journey. It's basically almost like a health and fitness readiness course, but there are actually implementable and pragmatic things that you can do straight away that will actually start improving your quality of life. So anyway, so back to my point. If you start implementing some of those habits and earlier habits, then you need to keep doing them until they become routine and built into your schedule to the point where they become as easy as brushing your teeth. And some people will implement them quicker than others, and some habits will be easier to implement than others. But once you've got that, and realistically it shouldn't take you more than on average, a couple of weeks to a month. Some might take you a little bit longer, but it doesn't mean that you can't progress. It's when you've got the majority of those down packed. That's when you start to then really individualize the plan or customize it. So, and some of the things that you consider is actually, what is your type of sport that you're actually doing, or exercise activity, or if that's not something that you're yet ready doing, your level of physical activity, because any kind of nutrition plan will need to take into consideration your unique caloric needs to help you get through the day and feel the most energized and so on. You might also, depending on what your actual sports goals are or body composition goals are, need a different macronutrient breakdown. But when you're first starting, the main thing is to actually get in the habit of, say, eating whole foods or eating consistently or eating enough protein. And then the next step after that is, once you've got those down packed, is then to start looking, okay, well, how do we then start to tweak those macronutrient profiles and potentially even micronutrients so it's actually optimizing your body for the performance that you need. yeah, and each person will require different macronutrient profile depending on what they're doing and how they respond to certain things, and also from a dietary perspective, dietary preference perspective, right? So there's a couple of considerations that you need to take in. The other consideration that a lot of people kind of overlook is actually your body type. So your body type will actually determine things like how you actually handle things like carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Even to a degree, how much water you hold on to, how much cortisol you hold on to from certain things, salt levels, all of those sorts of things. So you can get quite specific depending on what you're actually trying to achieve and how far you want to go, right? So it's all a learning process, and it's up to you around how much you want to deep dive into that, with the help of a guide, of course. So, and then the whole idea as well is to get, when build things in such as the basic habits around the mindfulness and actually becoming a little bit more in tune with the body and noticing how food feels, I guess, to a degree, or how you respond or how you're looking, then it's around also teaching you how to manipulate those, those macronutrients, for example, to be able to optimize everything that you're doing. So, for example, if you're doing some hard athletic training or sports nutrition, for example, then things like carb cycling might be something that you need to introduce for a period of time to help with energy and muscle progression, recovery, endurance, all those sorts of things. And there's a whole gamut, I guess, of tools that you can apply from a nutrition perspective that'll help you align to those goals better. After that, excuse me for a minute. After that, you've also got to take into consideration your response to habits, and you've also got to find out the right way to measure things as well. So, depending on where you're at, there's different measurements that you can do. So, for example, if you're trying to build muscle, then potentially you're not going to do a beep test to actually measure your cardiovascular activities. If you're attempting to do some a weight loss goal or just eat better habits, you don't necessarily need to do a caliper test. You could be just looking at simply how clothes feel to start off with, for example. So again, it really depends on what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve as to what measurements you want to do, and also aligning them to the goals, right? So there's no point measuring things that aren't congruent with the goals that you're trying to achieve. The other key part as well is to determine the right frequency and cadence of measuring, because some people can go over the top and start using the scales every day, or recording everything every day to the point where that becomes a chore in itself, and that's not always necessary, right? So it's about determining what's a sane way of actually measuring that progression to the point that it doesn't become an obsession. And it also, the whole idea, right, is to actually measure it at frequency enough that you can actually adjust the plan as needed and tweak things, and also get some quantitative and qualitative data to help you become the expert in your own experience, or to improve your expertise in being an expert in your own experience. So I guess the other thing is as well is that, you can probably infer from what I've talked about here that there isn't a single diet, whether it's high carb, low carb, paleo, keto, or whatever, high fat, low fat. It's based on a set of principles based on how your body works and customized to your unique needs. So we're talking about holistic coaching here, not sort of selling one type of way of doing things. And there's always many ways to get to an end result. So it's about choosing the path that works for you within reason. So, for example, if you want to lose 20 kilos within a year, but still want to eat cake every day, well, you might need to reevaluate whether or not those behaviours are actually congruent with your goals, which was an earlier tip that we had in this series. So anyway, my point is that if you are serious about improving your health and fitness or your body composition goals, then a coach can really help you get outside of your head and start to focus on the areas at the right time to start implementing certain things in your plan, help you find the right measurements, help you adjust the plan when necessary, and then help guide you or teach you with things that you want to know at your own time, so that you don't get overwhelmed with information or try a scattergun approach and try and do everything, right? So that was tip 5, start basic and then customize. Hope you found that useful. Comment below and stay tuned for the next 5 tips over the coming weeks.